Thanks for joining us today for the webinar. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners on the country of which we're meeting today. And here it's the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge their continued connection to land, waterways, culture and communities. Always was and always will be Aboriginal land. So my name is Charlie Wilbridge and I work at LGBTIQ+ Health Australia, and with me today we have Ashley Scott from Rainbow Families.
Hi, thanks for having me, Charlie.
Are you able to tell us a little bit about Rainbow Families and the work you're doing?
Absolutely. So Rainbow Families is a charity that we set up about 6 years ago that supports LGBTIQ+ parents and their families. When we set the charity up, there was no organisation around to support queer parents and their families. And so there was a group of gay dads and a group of lesbian mums that used to meet in the park but didn't really talk to each other. And a few of the dads and a few of the mums got together and thought we could be stronger if we came together, and we could do more to support the community. Wow. So that's the origins of Rainbow Families. Yeah. And from there we have grown, and we now do a lot more than just catch-ups in the park, although that is still something that is at our core, which is all about community connection. Yeah. We have a great events team that their goal is to bring the community together, to reduce isolation and to make connections for these families.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's gone from a grassroots with just social connection, ensuring that people are able to talk to other families like them, into something a bit more bigger.
Absolutely, definitely. So we now have a wonderful equality team that work to remove discrimination that our families face. That team has, in the past couple of years, done a lot of community consultation to look at the areas of discrimination that our families face when accessing federal government services and also state government services. And we've written a couple of reports on those areas of discrimination with recommendations for ministers about ways our families can be more accepted by government services. And we're working our way through the recommendations in that report to make it a fairer place for our families to be.
Yeah, that sounds great, Ashley. So we've got social supports and connection, and also trying to create change and equality for our families. What else does Rainbow Families get up to?
At Rainbow Families, we also do a lot of education for the community. So each year we release a large resource. Last year was a separation guide for parents, for families that might be breaking up. The year before that was a trans and gender diverse parents guide for families that have a parent that is transitioning or is trans or gender diverse. These are all resources that have case studies in them, because at Rainbow Families, we know we don't have all the answers. So we love collecting stories from our community and using that to create our education resources so that people can learn from other people's lived experience.
Yeah, that's nice. And that way they also don't feel alone, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Where can we find these resources?
They're all available on our website, www.rainbowfamilies.com.au. And we also have hard copies available at all of our events, so people can come and pick up copies of whatever guide is relevant for them.
Excellent.
As well as the resource guides that we produce, our education team runs our antenatal class, which is Australia's first LGBTQ+ antenatal class. It's run in partnership with Sydney Local Health District. So the nurses run the day. We organise the venue and the parents to come along and promote the event. And it's a wonderful, safe, inclusive space for queer parents to come and learn about the birth process and caring for their children once they have that baby.
Very important. I imagine going to the hospital to have those antenatal classes would be a bit of a challenge for some families.
Absolutely, and that's why we started running the antenatal class, because we heard feedback from the community about some horrific stories actually of people's experiences of their antenatal classes in their local hospitals. So
it's a concern.
It is.
Anything else you'd like to add about Rainbow Families at this point?
So as well as our events that I've touched on earlier on, we run a number of playgroups, which are really about connecting new parents and parents with toddlers and creating that sense of community for the parents and also for the children. We have playgroups in Curran Till out in southwestern Sydney, in the inner west and up on the central coast, and they run weekly and just are a great midweek catch up for stay-at-home parents to come out and meet other parents.
Yes.
But we're aware that a lot of our families do work, and so we also run regional catch-ups on the weekends so that working families can go to their local park and meet up with other families from their local area. So we have catch-ups in Penrith, Parramatta, the Blue Mountains, Newcastle, Central Coast, Illawarra, Macarthur, Inner West. They're all over.
It sounds like it. You're really trying to cover off some areas, not the big cities all the time, so that's wonderful.
Absolutely. For rainbow families to be authentic is very important, but it's also quite difficult at times. We've got families that live in areas that had a high no vote in the postal survey. And for those families to be their authentic self, it's quite difficult because they walk out their front door and they look around and think that 70% of my neighbours voted no for my family to be able to marry. So it's quite difficult for some families to be their authentic self. Removing discrimination is very important for families to be able to be out and proud of who they are. And being out proud families and parents is such an important thing for children. Children in same-sex families or LGBTQ plus families need to be proud of who they are, need to be going to school and going to their local sporting club, proud of the fact that they've got two mums or they've got two dads or whatever their family structure looks like. And International Family Equality Day is a day that reminds us of all of the wins we've had and all the equality wins that we've had, but also the work that we still have yet to do to make sure that our families are fully accepted and celebrated in their local communities.
I think that's so important because children pick up on how your parents are and if they're nervous or so if they're not comfortable and feeling authentic, then it's going to rub off on the kids.
Absolutely.
Speaking of kids, what kind of things or do you think is important for the children in rainbow families?
So children in rainbow families need connection to community just like their parents do, which is what we offer with our playgroups and our regional catch-ups and our large events that we run every year, where the kids can come to a big event and see other families that look like theirs, other diverse families, and it's completely acceptable and everyone loves it. We did some community consultation last year looking at areas that our community have identified that still need some work. And as a volunteer-led organisation with very limited resources, we had to look at all of the options that were put forward by the community and pick a couple that were that we thought were most valuable and would have the most impact for the community. One of those things that we're working on this year is a family diversity education package that we're looking at rolling out for schools to start off with, and then across other frontline service workers, so hospitals, doctors, and that kind of thing. I was alarmed at the number of families that mentioned bullying and harassment from other kids and even teachers at their children's schools. And we see that as an area that is a huge need within our community. So we're currently working on a program that we're hoping to roll out to schools later in the year that will be about family diversity for teachers so they can better understand how to support our families and celebrate our families.
Yeah, I think that's so important because families do come in all shapes and sizes, and it's not just rainbow families. We've got single parents, we've grandparents who are the primary carers, so it's such a wonderful initiative there. I'm just wondering, what about those folks who are just at the beginning of their journey to become a rainbow family?
It's such an exciting time for them. Deciding to create a family as an LGBTQ plus person is tricky. There are lots of options. It might feel like there are no options. It's very difficult to find all of the information in one place, whether you're looking at fostering, adoption, surrogacy, IVF, home insemination, do you go to the clinic, do you co-parent? There's so many options out there. Overwhelming, exactly. So at Rainbow Families, we run a Making Rainbow Families seminar each year where we bring together all of the information that queer people may need to know about creating a family. This year, with COVID in mind, we're running that as an online webinar series, so it's across 5 nights. And people will hear from psychologists who really just ask the question, are you ready to be a family? Are you ready to be a parent? And no one asked me that question before, before I became a parent. I think it's an important one to talk about. We've got fostering and adoption agencies coming to talk about the options for LGBTQ plus people looking to foster and adopt. We've got surrogacy experts talking about domestic and international surrogacy. IVF clinics talking about options for people that want to have donors, known donors, unknown donors. We have a wonderful woman talking about home insemination and how to do it the traditional way. We also have a legal panel that'll be coming to talk about the legal implications and the things that parents need to think about before becoming parents to make sure their family is safe and secure legally. And we finish it all off with our Youth Advisory Council, which is a group of teenagers from our community who share their experiences of what it's like to be raised by LGBTQ plus parents. And it gives the people attending the seminar an opportunity to ask questions to the kids and the parents about the practical day-to-day, what it's like being a queer parent.
Wow, even you rattling off all of those topics that you cover, you can see why it would be so overwhelming for someone who's starting a family, and so it's good that it's all in the one course and they can ask those questions. You mentioned the Youth Advisory Council. What role do they play in rainbow families?
So our Youth Advisory Council was formed not long after the marriage equality, and during marriage equality debate we had our families out there fighting for our rights and fighting for equality, and there was a group of teenagers that had been out there, been rallying, been door knocking, been talking to their local MPs, and they got to the end of marriage equality and went, what's next? And all of the parents were exhausted, obviously. But Rainbow Families wanted to support those young people to continue to advocate for equality. And we also wanted to build their skills and create future leaders within our community. So we started the Youth Advisory Council, and it's a group of teenagers that meet every month and get together. They talk about what's going on with their lives and what's happening for them in their families. This year, we're also working on a resource with the Youth Advisory Council. So it's going to be a resource that's written by kids in our community for kids in our community. So we're running workshops each month for them, upskilling them on things like community consultation and marketing and writing reports. And then each month they will go away and do their little bit of homework and come back. And we're hoping that by the end of the year, we'll have a beautiful resource that's been led by the young people in our community.
You really are breeding the new leaders, aren't you, in the Rainbow Families? Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ashley. So thanks for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.